VLSos here. This is a video lesson on units of measurement. This is going to be an introduction. There are many units of measurement. We're only going to discuss a few that are common. Units of measurement. What is a unit? Let's define it as we use it in mathematics. A unit is a name that we give to a single amount of something that can be measured or counted. We do a lot of measurement and counting in mathematics and science, but when we count something, we also need to know what it is that we counted. If we measure a certain amount of time, that measurement as a number is meaningless unless we have some unit to declare how much of the thing that we have measured or counted. We take measurements of the world, and there's many different ways that we can measure the world. For example, we can measure the length or the distance, a one-dimensional distance of an object. We can measure the space that fills a three-dimensional object. We call that volume when we take that measurement. We can measure mass. We can measure time. These four are very common, but there are many other things that can be measured, like temperature, surface area. And when we take these measurements, there are many different units of various size. We can measure length in many different ways: millimeters, miles, light years. But a very common measurement of length to use, we'll list one, is meters, as an example. A very common measurement of volume is gallons. A common measurement of mass is grams. And a common unit of measurement of time is the minute, or minutes. These are just examples. And every unit has an abbreviation. Meters is abbreviated with an M, sometimes lowercase, often followed by a period to show that it is an abbreviation. M because meters starts with an M. But so does the unit of measurement of minutes. In order to not confuse minutes and meters in the abbreviation, we have a different abbreviation for minutes, MIN, often followed by a period. Gallons and grams both start with a G, so their abbreviation, in order to distinguish them, must be different. GAL for gallons, and just G for grams. We need to use the correct abbreviation because we don't want to be confused in the units that we're using. We can also give units to things that we count or quantities. We could count 1, 2, 3, but if we're counting something in the real world, what is it that we counted that we had a count of 3? We could imagine counting lives, like in a video game. We could count pies. We could count people that come in the room. These would be units of the things that we can count or enumerate. And of course, we can have there are an infinite number of units, there are as many units for counts as the things that we can count. Converting units is a common thing to do. We can convert, some conversions are simplistic. One conversion, when we have a larger unit and we want to convert it to a smaller unit, like converting years into the smaller units of days, we can multiply. We can multiply to convert. To smaller units. For example, if we started with the rather large unit of time, years, we had 4 years, we can convert that to the smaller unit, days, by multiplying by the number of days in a year. 4 times 365 will convert those 4 years into, and we'll need a calculator for this, 1,460 days. Another example, let's say we wanted to take 1 day and convert it to seconds. It's the same amount of time, but we're going to measure it differently. If we measure the amount of time that we call 1 day, what is that in seconds? We're going to multiply to convert to smaller units, but we're going to have to multiply by a few things. We're going to convert the 1 day into hours, and then the hours into minutes, and then the minutes into seconds. So we're going to take that 1 day and multiply by the number of hours in a day to convert it to hours. And then we're going to multiply by the number of minutes in an hour, that's 60, to convert it to minutes. And then multiply by the number of seconds in a minute to convert it to seconds. And there we'll stop. Now, in order to do this kind of conversion, we need to know how many of one unit is in another. There are reference tables on the internet and provided in this class to look up common conversions that you'll need in order to know what you're multiplying by. But if we do this multiplication, 1 day times 24 hours times 60 minutes times 60 seconds, we will get the total number of seconds. We'll need a calculator for that, and a calculator has said 86,400 seconds. 1 day is equivalent to 86,400 seconds. We can convert from smaller units to larger units with division. We divide to convert to larger units. For example, if we had 10,000 days, which is a long measurement of time, but that days is a small unit to measure that amount of time. It would be more helpful to think of that amount of time in years. So we're going to convert the days to years. Days is a smaller unit, years is a larger unit. We divide to do that kind of conversion. We divide the 10,000 days by a year to convert it to years. But the number that we want to divide by is not 1, but 1 year in days, so that these units in the division are the same unit. So we're going to divide by the number of days in a year, 365. When we do this division, we'll need a calculator. We will come out with approximately 27.397 years. We can do more sophisticated unit conversions with a proportion, and we'll study how to use a proportion to convert units. It's a little more reliable, but often takes a couple extra steps. Multiplying in order to convert to smaller units, and dividing to convert to larger units, if that makes sense in the problem that you're doing, is probably the first thing that you should attempt. You'll also need a conversion chart or information on how many of one unit represents another in order to know what numbers to multiply and divide. You can get that as a resource that accompanies this class or the internet by typing into search.